Hi everyone, I am Brian Mullins the Fox, back to you all with the second to last short form rant of 2025. The next and last one will most likely be uploaded by me on the 29th of December, if the crazy weather doesn't take that chance out of my hands, or any other event hereby. Here are the top 10 reasons why these substitious patterns will continue to occur in 2025, 2026, and 2027. All of this goes right with all the culture shock predictions and other predictions as to the aftermath of the first of 3 of such that I have made in 2025 alone. And we will count down from number 10 all the way down to number 1. Number 10, they are recurring often enough. Let me explain. I am making absolutely sure that these patterns are occurring and recurring often and aren't happening too many times, or else they would just end up making more sense than what meets the brain and eye. And I wouldn't be making this video if that were to be the case. Number 9, they are impossible to ignore. Let me explain this one. These patterns can never go without saying if you want to point them out on the spot. They can be easier to explain directly to anybody without the possibility of stumbling upon ever more difficult to talk to people online that just tend to argue with everything you have to say for the sake of arguing with what you have to say. You shouldn't ignore any of them either, because if you aren't prepared enough to deal with the consequences of culture shock to such an insanely extreme extent that it causes your entire family to tear itself apart, you would only aimlessly wonder why, like, all of the shit just came out of nowhere and not learn anything for shit. Number 8. Patterns are supposed to make indirect sense. Let me explain. They don't have to fucking always make direct sense, because they can sometimes go without being said when almost everybody else knows what it means and what's to come in the long run. When these patterns go without saying, it's for a reason. It's only relatively obvious when you are paying attention and know what the hell's going on that it's not too long ago to remember. Number 7. They will also continue into 2026 and 2027. Let me explain. It isn't mutually exclusive to just 2025. If the culture shock pattern I predicted months ago on August 5th of all days is going to happen in the way I described it, anyone will do fucking goddamn anything despite Donald Trump. Just like any politician will stop the president from doing fucking anything if he's not on the right team, doing only what's necessary for their own agenda. And this shit has been going on for decades. Number 6. Patterns are also supposed to make direct sense in context. Let me explain this one. In the right context, or in any sensible context at all, they will have both a reason to happen and a reason to make sense at the same time. One can't happen without the other thing happening or having happened at all in the past. If one thing leads to another, this circumstantial method of explaining the nature of these upcoming outcomes is crucial. It's vital. You can't just predict that something will happen, never even begin to explain yourself to anyone else about anything for shit, and then expect everyone to just get it on the fly. That's never how any of that shit or this shit works. Number 5. All of these patterns are living proof of other, more important, less coincidental patterns. Let me explain this one. They are concurrent with other much bigger patterns that are far bigger in scope and much more important. And spoiler alert, I will explain exactly why in both number 3 and number 1. Number 4, they're completely antithetical to superstition in general because they can be used as stepping stones for extreme culture shock preparedness. Let me explain. You don't have to do dumb shit like knock on wood, avoid walking under a ladder, stepping on cracks, etc. Because first off, you would have to check for splinters, watch where you're walking, and walk around the cracks instead of just on them, regardless of if you have a chance of falling off the edge or not. What you could do to prepare yourself is come up with an effective enough, yet simple plan to deal with families falling apart, or how to deal with the consequences of fasting for an entire day and having nothing but water to drink and get through Christmas Day, just the day after indulging in a shit ton of food. Number 3, and this is very important, they're all based on past events and statistically unfortunate circumstances. Let me explain this one. Past events and travesties like the roast game, the Easter roast game, the 45% acquisition taken by Hallmark Entertainment and the Jim Henson Company of the Odyssey Channel on November 16th, 1998 that caused the roast game to have happened at all the day after, and Pope Francis dying a day after Easter are among the many that justify and explain how and why these patterns exist in the first place. And you have to also focus on numbers. Trump was the 45th president, Macaulay Culkin this year is 45 years old, and the 45% acquisition I just mentioned. Number 2. They don't just happen for no reason. Let me explain. These events aren't just happening without cause, context, or lead up to it. And just like that movie from 2010, Dinner for Schmucks, nothing happens for no reason, and everything has a reason to happen. Some stupid-ass event might happen out of fucking nowhere for you, but don't blame anyone but yourself for not preparing yourself ahead of time, at least remotely or tangentially, because not all culture shocks are made or happen equally. And finally, number 1, these patterns exist because events like the roast game and all the others I mentioned happened at all. Let me explain this one. To add on to number 3, for this entry, it's the other way around as well. So not only did these patterns happen because these past events happened, but these things happened because these patterns exist. These patterns would never exist in the fucking first place in an alternate timeline where we not only have Christmas dinner statistics in the US that aren't stolen from another country, that are so easy to access and vouch for in our own country, that it also wouldn't even matter in the grand scheme of things because something as minor as inflation would not make that much of a difference either way, other than stuff just being more expensive now in 2025 than they were before, for example, 1998. And that's another SFR smashed and done. And that's about it. But before I sign out, I will give you an update. I will make the second part of my very last Christmas dinner statistical analysis and schedule that one for December 24th, 2025 at noon, to the best of my ability. But until the next short form commentary and the next short form rant, I'm Brian Mullins the Fox, signing the hell out. See you all next time.